Hi everyone, this little video is looking at some of the bits of Key Area 3 from Unit 3 of the National 5 Biology course, Photosynthesis. I'm doing this in two parts just because my classes are looking at it over 2 weeks. So here are the learning intentions success criteria for the whole of Key Area 3, photosynthesis, but we're only going to be looking at the highlighted bits. So this video is basically going to look at the word equation for photosynthesis, the importance of photosynthesis, and describing the light reaction stage. And that success criteria there mentions an experiment, but that's because you will be doing an experiment after you look at this PowerPoint. But if you're just looking at this video just now, you probably don't know what I'm talking about because you've just stumbled across me on YouTube, whereas other people have been directed here through a series of tasks to learn about Key Area 3. Now here are the SQA summary notes, so take a moment just to pause, have a little read through. This is basically what the SQA want you to know. I'm going to be adding more information to it, so going into greater detail to sort of help explain and expand on these ideas. But these could maybe be the basis of your notes for this topic. Right, so photosynthesis and the importance of photosynthesis. As you already know, plants are producers because they can produce their own energy. They harness the energy from the sun and they convert that into a chemical energy called glucose, which is a type of sugar. And they use this as their energy source for various cell activities like mitosis, which is cell division, among other things. And the reason it's so important is because you remember that producers are always at the start of the food chain. So all the energy that animals get has originated in plants. So without photosynthesis, there'd be no plants and there'd be no animals because the animals rely on the energy produced by plants. Now that light energy, as I've said, comes from the sun, and the chemical energy that I was talking about is the sugar itself. Okay, because remember we've got different types of energy. You've got light, chemical, sound, movement. Those are all the sort of different types of energy, kind of getting our physics brain on. What photosynthesis does is it takes light energy from the sun and converts it into chemical energy in the form of glucose. Now this takes place in chloroplasts, which you'll remember from Unit 1, Key Area 1, are a special structure found only in plant cells. Let's have a little recap about the different parts of the plant cell. We've obviously got our nucleus, we've got our cell membrane, which is the inner line of that diagram there. We've got our mitochondria, which is the site of respiration. So that's where that glucose is broken down into ATP, so that all animals and plants can use that for cell activities. And we've got ribosomes, which are the site of protein synthesis. So these are 4 features of a plant cell that are shared in animal cells as well. Now, plants have the cell wall, that is unique to them, and also fungal cells, and actually bacterial cells. So it's just animals that don't have a cell wall. And that is always the outer layer of the cell. They've got a vacuole, and finally they've got the chloroplast that we were talking about. Now this diagram here is actually a picture of some plant cells under the microscope, and all those green little circles there, those are the chloroplasts. Here's a little diagram that basically shows the insides of a chloroplast, and it's got a series of membrane layers, and then it's got these little discs that are stacked high on top of each other. And this is basically where the photosynthesis takes place. Now we're going to have a little look at our word equation. So we've got carbon dioxide from the air, because remember, plants are super important because they clean our air. They take that carbon dioxide and then they turn out oxygen, and oxygen is so important for us because that's what we need to breathe. Remember, oxygen is required for respiration for us to get energy from our food. So we've got our carbon dioxide and water. That's what the plant needs. Water comes up through the roots of the plant, and the carbon dioxide enters through the stomata of the leaf. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you're going to have to go back to Unit 2, Key Area 5, Transport System in Plants. So For photosynthesis, we put in carbon dioxide and water. We use the energy from the sun, so we use light energy. Now that's popped over the arrow because that doesn't actually get used up to produce the products, it's just required. And glucose is the important product that plants produce, that is what they need. That's the thing that they're going to use. And they also produce oxygen as a waste product. So the plant doesn't need the oxygen. The oxygen is basically just chucked out of the plant. It exits via the stomata into the atmosphere, which is great for us because that's what we need. We need oxygen. Now, photosynthesis occurs in two stages. We've got the light reactions, and in this diagram, it's showing us the insides of a chloroplast, and we can see in the light reactions that we need our light. And we can also see that something's happening with our water, and the light reaction is actually where we produce our oxygen. Now the second stage does not require light, it's called carbon fixation, and that's when they use the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and with the hydrogen that they've taken from the water, they produce glucose. Now as I'm recording this, my face is actually in front of the glucose there, so I don't know if I've circled glucose, but hopefully I have. So we're going to talk about the light reactions first of all. Now, light reaction starts off with water. Okay, that's been entered the plant through the roots and has made it into the plant cell to the chloroplast. So we've got our water molecule, and it says there it's made of 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. Now the light energy that is absorbed in the chloroplast, and it gets absorbed by a pigment called chlorophyll. Now chlorophyll is important and we'll talk about that later. So the light energy trapped by chlorophyll in the chloroplast is used to split up our water into oxygen and hydrogen. Now as you'll remember, I said oxygen is a waste product, so it's at this point the oxygen is released into the atmosphere, and we're not going to think about that anymore. We're now going to focus on our hydrogen. That hydrogen is super important, and it's going to go and get used in the second stage of carbon fixation. Now through this process, we also generate some ATP molecules. Now you should remember from Unit 1 Key Area 6 that ATP is the energy storing molecule. So what's happened is we've split up water and we've actually converted that light energy into chemical energy. So that ATP is going to also be used in carbon fixation to help generate the glucose. Now let's just talk about chlorophyll quickly. Chlorophyll is why plants are green. It is a green pigment and it's found in chloroplasts. It traps the energy in the light by absorbing its energy. So it's taking in these basic high energy electrons that the light is carrying, and it traps them in there. And that energy is what is used to split up the water molecules into oxygen and hydrogen. There's a little word equation down there. So the water is getting split into hydrogen and oxygen. So that was chlorophyll, but now we're just going to look at our ATP. Just to do a quick recap, for those of you that don't remember, you should recognize this molecule here, 1 adenosine with 3 phosphate molecules. That's ATP. And remember, the energy stored in the last bond, so that's this one here. If the cell needs to use energy, what will happen is that last phosphate will break off and then energy is released, and now the energy can be used for cell processes. So when the bond breaks, energy is released, and in photosynthesis we talk about ATP. It's going to get used in carbon fixation, so that last phosphate will shoot off, energy will be released, and then it's used to produce the glucose that the plant needs. So as a wee summary, photosynthesis is a 2-stage process, the light reactions and carbon fixation. The light reactions use energy from the sun, which is trapped by chlorophyll in the chloroplasts. This energy is used to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. During this process, the light energy is converted into chemical energy because we produce ATP. Oxygen is a waste product, so diffuses from the cell and then exits the leaf through the stomata. And hydrogen and ATP that is produced during the light reactions is passed on to stage 2 carbon fixation. So that's us covered light reaction stage 1. We've looked at this diagram where we've taken the light and the water, and through the light reactions we have produced oxygen, which is our waste product, and the hydrogen and the ATP get carried over to carbon fixation. Okay. Now, the next time we're going to talk about carbon fixation and then also about things that might limit and affect the rate of photosynthesis. So hopefully that's helped you a bit understand what the SQA needs you to know about photosynthesis. Just a reminder, this is only the first half of the key area. The second half will be going over the success criteria points 5 to 9. So hopefully it helped. If it did, please like the video and I'll see you all later.